Hi everyone, my name is Tunde and today I'm going to be showing us how to build a number guessing game in Python. Okay, so before we proceed, we need to open our preferred IDE. In my own case, I'm using the Jupyter Notebook where I have my file already named number guessing game. So you can choose your preferred IDE such as VS Code, Sublime Text, or even the Google Colab, depending on what works for you. Okay, number guessing game, how does this work? The computer chooses a random number and the player is expected to correctly guess the number the computer has chosen. Right. So to achieve this, what we need to do first is to import the random and the randint libraries. So we say from random import randint, enter. So the next thing we'll be doing is we are going to be assigning the random number to a variable called number. We say number is equal to rand int, then the random number, right? So you can choose to say 5. That's 2 and 5 inclusive. So let's print what number is. So we run, we have 5 inclusive. We run again, we have 5 again. We run again, we have 5. We run again, we have 3. Run again, we have 4. So we've established that we need to get rid of this print statement. We don't need it yet. So in our own case, we don't want 2 to 5. We simply want 1 to 15. Then the next thing we shall be doing is we are going to be assigning the guess from the player to a variable name. So we say guess is equal to input. So this input receives the guess from the player. Okay. Then the next thing we shall be doing is we want to compare if the player's guess is equal to the number the computer has chosen. So we say if guess is equal to number colon enter print you guessed correctly. Also we say elif guess is greater than number colon enter we print too high, and again we say elif guess is less than number colon enter we print too low. Okay, so let's test this and see. We run, let's choose 6, then press enter. Okay, so here we have a type error which says greater than not supported between instances of string and integer. So where this error is coming from is line 3, and that's because the input function by default returns a string and we can't compare a number to a string. So what we do is we convert this string to a number by saying int, then put the input inside the int. Now this is called casting. So we can choose to convert between data types. We can choose to convert from integer to float, from float back to integer, from from integer to boolean, from integer to string, and vice versa. So here we've said guess is equal to input now, which is an integer. Let's run again. Now let's choose a number. Let's say we have, let's guess 4. Then press enter. It says too low and the game ends there. Okay, so we can't go further here. The reason is because we've not implemented the loop, and that's the next thing we shall be doing. So in Python, we have two types of loop. We have the for loop and the while loop. In our project here, we shall be using the while loop. So here we come here, we say while true colon, then we indent code block line 4 to 10. Now, what is a while loop? Specifically, how does a while true loop works in Python? So the while true loop runs without any conditions until the break statement executes inside the loop. So that means that we don't put conditions inside the while loop. Rather, we use a break statement to break out of the while true loop. So here we come here and then we type in the break statement. So what this means is that if our guess is the same thing with what the computer has chosen randomly, we get the statement you guessed correctly, and then we break out of the loop. That means we've ended the game. So let's run this and see. We press run and I choose 7, then press enter. It says too low. Then we try something else. Let's say we try 9, press enter. It says too low. Let's check 13. It says too high. Let's check 12. Too high. 11. You guessed correctly. So 11 was actually the number the computer selected randomly. Okay, so we've been able to achieve that. So the next thing we shall be doing is we want a case whereby while playing the game, we get bored and we can't continue. We want to put in a value that exits the game, right? Just like saying we want to quit the game. So here I am going to use a string called end. So once the player types in end in the prompt, the game ends, right? More like say the loop gets executed. So what we are going to do is we come here and say if guess is equal to end. Now note that end here is a string, colon, enter. We print you quit, right? Now we need to note something. If we run this code, we are going to have an error simply because guess here is an integer, and then we are trying to say an integer is equal to a string, and that's not going to be possible. So what we are going to do is we are going to take, okay, let's run it first and see. We should have an error. We run, we type 5, enter. Okay, now let's type end. We have an error, just like I said. And the error is a value error. It says invalid literal for integer with base 10 end. So what we can do here is we remove this integer. So our guess here remains the default value as a string. So rather we come here, we put integer, we place guess into integer, and then we also do the same thing here. And also do the same thing here. So what this means is that guess by default is a string, right? So it can accept end. Okay. But here when we are trying to compare it with the number the computer has chosen randomly, we cast the value to become an integer. Okay. So since we have an if statement here, this line is meant to be an elif. And here we type in the break keyword. That means that the moment we press or we type end in the prompt, we get a statement that says you quit and the game ends. So let's run this and see. Run. Let's put in 6. We press enter. Too low. Let's put in 9. Press enter. Too low. And we get bored. We end the game. We type end. It says you quit. Wow, this is getting very interesting. Okay, so the next thing we are going to be doing is we want to make our return statement more descriptive. So which is going to guide the player to what to do. So here we can just come to line 4 and say guess a number from 1 to 15 or type end to quit. So if you notice here, we have end, we have end here not as a string but as a variable that is undefined. So if we run this code, we are definitely going to get an error too. So what we can do here is that to make this quote, because if you look at this part here, from here, we have a quote here, which ends here. So the program sees from this part to this part as a string, then end is not part of the string. Then after end, we have another string. That's the quotes, the starting quotes to this end quote here. So what we can do is we can handle this in two ways. We can use the escape character to make this quote in its raw form. Or to make things easier for ourselves, instead of using the single quotes here, we use the double quotes. We come here, so use a double quote. If you use a double quote to start your string, you also use double quote to end your string, else you'll be getting error. Also, let's also make the line 6, the statement in the print, more descriptive also. We say you quit. Then we can say the number is number, and then we put F here. So this is what we call string formatting. So this allows us to ingest data into a string. You can see that the number here, which is a variable, which is the number the computer has chosen randomly, is now inside a string, but surrounded by curly braces. So this is what we call data ingestion, and it is done using the fstring method. So let's also do the same for line 9. You guessed correctly. The number is number. Then it puts F. What else? Okay. So too low also, we can say your guess is too high, and do the same thing for line 14. We say your guess is too low. So let's run this and see what we get. We run this, we choose 5, we press enter. It says your guess is too low. So we are going to choose something that is higher. We press 8, press enter. It says you guessed correctly. The number is 8. All right, so we are going forward. So the next thing we are going to do is we need to give the statement some space, right? So how do we do that? We do that by simply putting the new line. We say slash n here, also slash n here. Where else can we put slash n? Okay, let's put slash n here also, slash n here, slash n here, so that all the return statements will be on new lines. Let's run this again. Let's put in 8. We press enter. Your guess is too high. And then let's end the game. And you quit. The number is 6. Okay, so that's that. But let's consider one more thing. What if the player put in a character that is not an integer? For instance, the player puts in a letter such as, let's say, H. We press enter. You can see we have an error, a value error to be precise. It says invalid literal for integer with base 10 H. So what we can do is we are going to be handling this, and it's a process called error handling or exception handling. So we are going to be using the try and except. So we say try colon, every other code it gets indented. Then say except. So here we can choose to say except the value error. Right? But what if the error we want to handle is not just going to be the value error, because we might be faced with some other ones that we might not know for now. So it's better we don't be specific. You just say except. So this is going to take care of any errors that will be happening eventually. So we say print insert a valid character. So let's run this and see. We run this, we put in 6, we press enter. Your guess is too high. Then we mistakenly typed in F. We press enter. It says insert a valid character. Or we can choose to be polite. We can say please insert a valid character. Okay, so also we can choose to use the finally keyword. Finally. So the finally returns a statement which always gets executed whether the code runs or not. So here we say print. Thanks for playing. So let's test the entire code now. We run, we choose 3, we press enter. It says your guess is too low. We choose 8, we press enter. It says your guess is too low. Okay, so that's okay now. Now let's type in end to quit the game. It says you quit. The number is 13. Thanks for playing. Right. Okay. So let's also test again for invalid characters. Let's type J and press enter. You see, when we tried this the previous time, we had an error, but now the error has been handled, right? So instead of us getting the value error, we simply got the return statement that says, please insert a valid character. So here we can choose to put slash n here to put it on a new line. Let's run again. Let's put a letter, let's say K. We press enter. Please insert a valid character. Thanks for playing. Okay, so we've come to the end of this project. Thank you.